So how's it feel, John?
Oh man, it feels awesome. It feels awesome. It feels awesome because you never know, man. 150, 200 years ago, these sheep, if there are any sheep in this territory, the Gulf Coast ram, these are the descendants of those sheep.
The more that time passes of me being a homesteader and someone who has the opportunity to work hands-on with the earth, with the animals, and with plants, the more that I desire to want to be better in my ability to do so, to be a better steward of the earth. Which is why I really enjoy visiting other homesteaders and farmers and people who are just doing amazing things, because I learn from them in ways that I can improve, and I have the opportunity through these videos to share these lessons with you all as well. Greetings, friends. In this video today, we're going to be visiting our friend John Jackson from Concord Farms once again. And if you missed the first video that we did featuring John, make sure you check it out. John is a U.S. Army vet who's been through a lot, but is now a farmer. And on his farm, he serves not only his community through producing amazing food, but he also brings on vets and others who have experienced things like PTSD and allows them to work out on the farm and receive agrotherapy at the same time that they're producing food and things for people to enjoy. Concord Farms is a 25-acre farm, and as you come onto the property, on your right is where John has the gardens set up. And then just beyond that is where John is raising his chickens, his turkeys, his geese, and his ducks. And then the next section, just beyond that, is where John raises their staple, their pigs. But recently, John has added another 5 acres to the property and is doing some land regeneration in this newly purchased area. Well, I'm a hands-on type of guy. I don't just like to just walk around with the video. When we go to visit these places, I actually like to help out and do certain things because it feels good. I'm a doer. And while I was there with John, one of the projects that we worked on was some land regeneration project with sheep. Hey John, when you get a chance, can you explain to us what your overall concept is with your sheep and the land regeneration program you got going on here?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, the whole point of bringing the sheep in is to, you know, there's a lot of mass out there, there's a lot of food, a lot of things that the sheep can use for energy. So instead of going and mowing it down, well, guess what? It saves on our cost to have the sheep come in to do the things that they naturally do, which is to browse and eat, right? Yeah. And so with that, we're clearing land, and we're going to use the animals to kind of stimulate. We got a lot of pine trees here that we're going to have to cut down. Pine really makes the soil very acidic, so having these once we get this timber out of here, we're going to actually plant a lot more fruit trees and other hardwoods. So we're going to plant a lot of hardwoods up in here, and this is the start of it. You know, we're going to totally transform the landscape that we're living on right now.
So you're taking overgrown areas to productive areas. You're using the natural characteristics that the sheep have.
Yeah.
Providing them with food from what's growing,
yeah,
as well as better managing the land and caring for the land as a steward.
That's it. You're steward of the earth.
There we go.
You know?
That's fantastic.
You know, we use modern day equipment. We're not against using, you know, our John Deere tractor. Obviously, that's the workhorse. It limits the amount of man hours that we have and what we can do. More importantly, we could save time. You know, we want to be out here by 1:30 every day. You don't want to spend too much time on the farm. Get the animals fed, get them moved, get them cleaned up, make sure everybody's done. Health and welfare or whatever, and go ahead and drink a beer, you know, that's pretty much it.
There we go.
That's it, man.
That's the good farming life.
Yeah, there you go.
And on the night before we started the project, John introduced me to his sheep that he is using for this land regeneration project that he has. And he also brought out his John Deere tractor, which I must say, I'm pretty jealous of. I really want one of those. And he bush hogged the areas that we're going to be working on the following day. Mark went over the overall goal for the project, since he is the one partnered with John in raising the sheep and helping John to learn, since this is a new animal that he's bringing on to his farm. The overall goal is to take the sheep that were in the old paddock, and for those of you who don't know what a paddock is, it's basically a small area where you're allowing your animals to graze, and the sheep had already pretty much grazed everything out of that area, so they needed to come out of that old paddock and move them into a new paddock. But before we did that, there was a number of steps that we needed to follow. Mark showed me a really neat trick of how to get the ground rods out of the ground, the ones that are used for electrified fencing, without banging them with the sledgehammer or just giving yourself a hernia to do so. And this trick is pretty neat.
And I will say it works better on ground rods that have been banged around a little bit. So worst case, you bang it once, bend it a little bit, and then you have.
There we go.
So
that's good. Appreciate that.
That's your ground rod secret for the day.
Yeah.
We had them in here for a week and a half.
Okay.
They've pretty much eaten down everything that a sheep will eat. And it makes it real easy, like especially what John's doing. If he wants to come back here with the mower and get this stuff down, give a chance for, you know, maybe more grass species to come in, do that. And his goal and my goal in helping him with this is to kind of create this kind of look around the farm. Get it down to where they can have pigs in and have them be more manageable. I think we were talking turkeys too. So this is kind of the first. This is the first stage, and the reason we use sheep is that a lot of people think, oh yeah, go get a goat, you know. But a sheep likes a fence. A goat sees a fence and sees a challenge. So a sheep is comforted by the fence for the most part, except for when they stick their head through.
So most of the time when you move your fence, do you have another set of?
Yeah, so these right here, basically what I do is I use this as kind of like a, what's the word I'm looking for? A
lane.
Thank you, Dulcie. A lane. But you create kind of a fatter lane because it's, you know, completely do it yourself.
Okay.
So what I'll do is probably run this lane that way. And you basically take it from one gate to wherever you want to gate them the next place.
Okay.
So, or just even a space in the fence. So, and that way you create a little paddock / lane for them.
Okay.
That has an opening and an ending. So we'll start at the end here.
Okay. So I'm matching up here.
Yes, sir.
And then running that way. Okay. You like the single spikes better than the double?
Yeah, the double spikes end up bending and don't really provide that much extra for you. And they cost like $10 more.
Yeah.
There you go. You got it figured out already, buddy. Good job. Now let's see if they'll just move in like this. I think they probably will. Yeah, and so I generally do this. Here, come on through.
I wasn't sure if you wanted me to move it over.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Okay.
All right, so then we just open it like a gate.
Okay.
And we're coming to you.
Right.
Come on, sheep, sheep, sheep.
We opened it up for the sheep to go into this retaining area. And this is one of my favorite parts.
Actually, if you want to be the sheepdog and walk around behind him. Go to your right. Yeah, go to your right. Go to your right.
Then we closed off the retaining area to keep the sheep in there while we next pulled up the old pre-existing fence.
Man, it's like a forest in here that got cut down. Look.
And a number of the kids really enjoyed helping out on this project.
Untie it
Wait.
for me. Untie it for me. Sorry, that. Thanks, guys. You want to untie that one for me, Corday?
Including Micah,
Get it
who
out?
really enjoyed pulling out the fence
There you
stakes.
go. You didn't only need one hand. Way to go, man.
Really long. Yeah. You let Mike do all the work?
I am. All right. No snakes in there, are they?
Nope.
You kind of make
Next,
sure that
we folded up the fence
Then we'll be
and
golden.
moved it over to the new paddock.
Yeah, and you can help your dad too.
Perfect.
Sometimes
Way to go.
I got one at the end.
I just have to spread it out.
Whenever you're setting up electrified fencing, you want to make sure that the fence is tight and there's as little sag as possible.
Yeah, so what we want to do is make sure that we're kicking it tight, and then coming through, grabbing this.
You're also being mindful of keeping enough space in.
Yes, keeping enough space in here to be able to walk through, and
Keep the weeds off.
yep, and yep, keeping the weeds up. That's why we come and cut that space. You know, open it up because you want a wide length. So it's a Premier fencing next.
Okay, look at that. So as you're doing some land regeneration here and just going through and working with the sheep, you're using the Premier one, temporary fence here.
Yeah, man.
Long term, do you think you'll go to a more actual permanent fence, or will you continue to use this for a while and kind of see how things go and then go from there?
Yeah, so what this Premier One fence is gonna allow us to do is to kind of see what logistically works best for us, you know? So being able to come through here, once we start clearing all this land, using the roadways, we might make our paths a little bit wider. We might identify, you know, this is a great space for us to do a garden plot, but still utilize our rotational grazing and methods to actually do that. Once we are able to establish that, I'm thinking the best thing for us, Mike, is to go ahead and put permanent fencing in here, so that way, you know, we can cut down the steps of what we need to do. You know, to be, like I said, you got to slow down, cut the number of steps you got in order to be profitable.
That's
you
right.
know,
There we go. I like that, and I think not doing permanent fence right away is a very good idea.
Yeah.
Because I've made some mistakes before of trying to put things permanent, and then you do and find out that that area is terrible for that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Then you gotta end up taking it all out.
We don't know how the weather, the water is going to be here. You know, once we start getting storms and things like that, where it's going to hold. You know, it may look nice on the surface, but you know, once you start moving stuff out of here, things start clearing. What's the, you know, the elevation? There's going to be a lot of things that we can't see that the sheep are going to expose to us. And if we go out and say we want to do this right here, put structure right here, and we have wasted a whole bunch of time, a whole bunch of money, and a whole bunch of human resources in order to make it happen.
Yeah. The kids secretly snuck away to feed the sheep, which they really wasn't supposed to be doing, but they enjoyed it.
Yo, my nutmeg.
So we're just gonna go to the next spot.
So these black posts right here, they just help with areas that are sagging and even cutting corners just to make your fence even tighter.
Because if it's touching the ground, you're out of luck.
And then finally, we had everything set up. And this is when my best, most favorite part of the day came. Now it's time to move the sheep into the new paddock. Ready for this?
All right, go quickly through here, and then walk into the other paddock. Go, 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 go. Keep going, Cordia, keep going. All right, now Mike, you come this way.
Oh, right into the tree. The feeling of being around flocks and herds never gets old. So neat just being right immersed with them as they're expressing the natural characteristics and a natural environment to express those characteristics in. So how's it feel, John?
Oh man, it feels awesome. It feels awesome. it feels awesome because you never know, man. 150, 200 years ago, these sheep, if there are any sheep in this territory, the Gulf Coast ram, these are the descendants of those sheep. So they're a rare species. The Spaniards brought them over here in the 1500s. They dropped them off along the Gulf Coast. They developed a very goat-like behavior where they eat, browse, and chew. As you can see, these guys out here eating the privet, eating the browse, which are great for woodland environment. And sometimes we just can't have what they might have out west or up north. We got to stick to what we got, and these sheep have proven over and over again to be sustainable for this. And the number one is parasites. Down in the southeast, we have so many parasites, and these sheep have been thriving since the 1500s here in America. So it's amazing to have them back here on the land, regenerating the land, telling the story again, and us being able to utilize it. I love it.
And what is the name of this breed again?
The Gulf Coast sheep.
Gulf Coast sheep.
Mm-hmm.
I think I may need to get some of these.
Yeah, it's on the endangered list of Livestock Conservancy.
Oh, really?
Well. Yep, they're threatened. You won't find many sheep where you could have both a so typically when a lot of Americans don't like to eat sheep, they don't like to eat sheep because they are getting kind of like wool sheep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so wool sheep are kind of infuses the lanolin from their skin or into the meat, and you kind of get like a very musky, extremely gamey taste where a lot of folks don't like that taste. So hair sheep, which is the most utilized sheep in the world, are hair sheep. They don't have wool, they have hair. The meat on those are much higher quality. So like your Katahdins and your Dorpers are very prominent in that area. But the Gulf Coast ram and the Gulf Coast sheep are a wood sheep with an exceptional flavor. You do not taste that lanolin. I did a whole mutton. It was called Mutton or Nuttin' on Man Fire Food episode. If you check that out, we did a whole mutton, which is a 3-year-old sheep. And that's another thing too. So you have lamb, you have haggis, and you have mutton. And so a lamb is anything under a year old. A haggis is between anything over a year and under 2 years, and then a mutton is anything 3 years or older.
Okay.
And so we like going for the mutton because they've been on the earth. We call them earth finish, aged on the hoof. The meat's going to have a much more better flavor. And that flavor, that especially with our land here, with the persimmon trees and the hickory trees and all the privet that we have here, is going to give this sheep a very unique taste. And we like calling it the terroir of our land, like they use in like a lot of vineyards do in California and all over the world.
Okay.
So our terroir of our land is specific to what we grow here naturally, and those sheep are going to have a very unique flavor.
Excellent. So these sheep are dual purpose sheep then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and you can keep them on the farm longer.
Yeah.
So you get the wool and meat.
Yeah.
And aged meat.
Yeah, and aged meat. yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The utilization of these guys to be able to go ahead and eat and push stuff down, you'll be able to see them as they start just going to work. They do not act like your typical pasture-raised sheep. These are great for the woodland environment. They do great on pasture as well, but these guys are dual purpose in that aspect too, where they do both pasture and woodland.
Fantastic. So guys, I want to show you something. The work that the sheep have done. This area that we just moved them from, right here. You can see how there's practically no veg, there's no leaves, no greenery. Well, this area that they were in was just like this area right here. That's just all overgrown with various types of plants, aka weeds, but it provided them with food, as well as now using these sheep, John is going through and cleaning up and working on these areas around his farm. So using the natural characteristics of the animal to work on the environment as well as to produce food for people. That's the way it's supposed to be done. Not having animals stuck in a feed lot somewhere where the land is just barren and they're just in these lots and we're just constantly feeding them with outsourced feed. No, feeding them from the land, working with the land to produce goodness. The way it's supposed to be done. So you put the minerals in this feeder here?
And normally you tie this, but as long as you keep it away from your fence, they can play around with it if you need them to. So that generally keeps the rain off of it. So then they have mineral and salt to supplement what they get here. They have a pretty balanced diet, but there are certain things like selenium and zinc that are a little bit deficient in our soils that they can use extra of. So that's what that is.
Okay. And how do you do their just typical feed? Supplemental feed, I guess?
No, if we supplement them, it's with hay.
Okay.
So that gives them a little bit more roughage and a little bit more protein. I may eventually add protein blocks in this, but the goal is to move them quickly enough that you don't have to do that. So they were here a week and a half. I think we'll probably need to expand the fence a little bit going forward. Okay. But then we should have a balanced enough diet for them with that.
Sweet. So overall, you're trying to feed them as much as possible from what's on the land.
Yeah.
And then you're just giving them the minerals there just to supplement.
Exactly.
And then the hay a little bit here when, especially as things start to get colder and the vegetation's lower.
Well, and interestingly, like, so these guys are gonna eat, this is privet and it'll be green all winter. So most of the stuff in here will be green for part or all of the winter. So we're kind of encouraging them to eat it. And essentially it'll act like stockpiled forage. Hey, girlfriend. Essentially it'll act like stockpiled forage. Wood, I mean, and that's what it is. It's browse, but it's stockpiled browse. So they just get it all winter long.
And what do you do for their water?
John is bringing out 5-gallon buckets in either his tractor or his UTV, I guess is what they're called. They don't drink a ton. They drink more when they're on mineral, but they don't get too crazy. So generally they're pretty light drinkers because of what they've got in the forage helps them kind of supplement what they need for water.
So once they fill up the bucket there, how much are they having to fill that up on a regular basis?
I would say they're probably doing 10 gallons a day.
So after we had the fence all set up, next we went around and removed any limbs and brush that was coming into contact with the fence. So Mark, you're the main one helping John set up the sheep here. And you actually have a business where you come through, you bring the sheep in to clear out areas. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So for the last 5 years I've run a business called Cud Crew, which is landscape management or vegetation management with sheep. So if you have an area that's especially like a steeper area that you can't put a tractor in, or an area near a water source that you don't want to spray, or that you want to just spray slightly, we can come in ahead of that and clear out the land using essentially regenerative practices, which is only 100-pound mowers instead of 10,000-pound mowers. So that's the basic concept behind it. They do it some in other cities, but as far as I know, I'm the only one in Middle Georgia doing it. So
that's fantastic. I've heard of people doing that as a business with goats, but you're actually doing it with sheep. So what all areas do you service here in Georgia?
Just right around Macon. So Milledgeville is kind of like the edge of my territory. So I'm from Macon, Georgia, which is right at the dead center of the state, about 25 miles from here. So between 25 and 50 miles, depending on the project, in Macon.
Awesome.
Within Macon, range of Macon.
Such a neat idea. So
thank you.
That's amazing, man.
And plug for sheep. A sheep will do 90% of what a goat will do, but with half the trouble, because they don't mind staying in fences. Goats like to get out of fences. So that's why I have sheep instead of goats, because I don't like chasing goats.
There we go. And we'll leave information for Mark's business in the show notes below, so make sure you check out that link and all that they do. So I must say, we really enjoyed helping John out with his sheep. But make sure you stay tuned for a couple more videos that we have featuring John at Comfort Farms. Stay tuned.
There is always something good to be up untamed from breaking loose and leave the things that kept you chained.